Hey, what's going on, everybody? Chris Meaney here of FTN, taking a look at some of the biggest risers and fallers in fantasy football drafts over the past 2 weeks using data from NFFC, high-stakes leagues where people are putting their money on the line. It is week 2 of the NFL preseason. That means we're just a couple weeks away from opening week, and it also means we are dead smack in the middle of draft season. So let's get after it and start with some of the biggest risers here, led by Judy. He is the biggest name on this board. More on him in a little bit. Marquez Callaway and Donovan Peoples-Jones both had very strong week 1 preseason games. I'd rather take the shot on DPJ. He is battling with Rashard Higgins for the number 3 job, a job I think he will win. He may not become fantasy relevant unless Odell Beckham Jr. goes down again. A great best ball target somebody will be talking about in DFS, but he has jumped from wide receiver 145 in the last 2 weeks of July to wide receiver 83 in the first couple weeks here in August, 282 ADP to 237. I do believe he is a strong target. Callaway's just short-term value. Michael Thomas will be back soon. Traequan Smith is dealing with an injury. Everybody loves Adam Trotman, but he didn't have a great first preseason game, 0 targets, and all he did was really pass block. I guess we're doing it again with Rashaad Penny, former first-round pick from 2018. Guys, it's Chris Carson's backfield. Stop undervaluing Chris Carson. If anything happens, it's a crowded backfield with Travis Homer, DJ Dallas, Alex Collins, and Rashaad Penny. I get shooting for upside. He's just not for me. Boston Scott, I get the jump here. Miles Sanders struggled last year with drops. He's struggling this year with drops out of camp. This despite catching almost everything thrown his way as a rookie. So Scott will definitely be involved. But as for Judy here, he has jumped the likes of his teammate, Cortland Sutton, Kenny Golladay, Juju Smith-Schuster, Robbie Anderson, and DJ Chark. I'd rather have Judy than all of those guys. He's moved from wide receiver 34 to wide receiver 28. I have him as 27. You see here the targets, 113, but only 52 grabs and only 856 yards, despite the 6th most air yards, 1,541 air yards. There's a couple things to break down here. Poor quarterback play, which he may get again. If it's Teddy Bridgewater, I think it would actually benefit Judy. He's a little bit more accurate. And the ADOT, when you're getting targeted 14 yards down the field, it's hard to reel in all of those targets. Bad quarterback play, partly on him with the 10 drops, the 3rd most as well. 16.5 yards per reception, the 3rd most among wideouts with 80 targets, and 7.6 yards per target. It's the 10th fewest among wideouts with 80 targets. Again, all of those factors I alluded to, the ADOT, the bad quarterback play, and the drops. But week 1 of the preseason, he played in the slot. I think that's a role that's better suited for him. He's explosive after the catch. I do believe the drops will go away. It's something he didn't do in Bama. And also just short yardage throws. So we get rid of some of the boom, lose some of the bust with maybe a more accurate quarterback and easier completions for Judy, who's also very explosive after the catch. I think he's a very strong target. Over to some of the fallers here. Julio Jones is your biggest name. I wouldn't look into that too much. I see him, sometimes go as high as wide receiver 10, 11, 12. I think that's a little steep, but wide receiver 20, I think that's a pretty decent price for Julio Jones with upside to be a wide receiver 1, honestly. The targets are going to come down in Tennessee, but maybe more efficiency. Ryan Tannehill has been the 3rd best quarterback since he's taken over in 2019 with the Titans. So I like Julio Jones as a wide receiver 2. DeVonta Smith, guys, don't let him fall too much. I mean, this is a guy who's going to get 100 plus targets. He's going around wide receiver 40. There's not a lot of targets, a lot of wideouts going around wide receiver 40 who could be the number 1 in their offense, and I expect Smith to be the number 1. Myles Gaskin we'll get to in a little bit. David Johnson looks like he's going to have a 3rd down role. Phillip Lindsay, who's going around Rashaad Penny, who I'd rather have, is Lindsay with 2 1,000-yard seasons on his NFL resume. But he's, he ran with the 1s and the 2s in the first preseason game, and Mark Ingram's on the squad, and he's listed as the 1. It's a crowded backfield. You're likely just better off passing on all of them. We're taking the shot on Lindsay. And Daniel Jones, I really don't have a lot to say. I mean, if you've watched some of the film in camp, he's looked awful. But he does have a new shiny toy in Kenny Golladay, and he hasn't played a lot of football with Saquon Barkley. So that could benefit him for sure. Gaskin is the big name here, the biggest storyline, I think, from week 1, apart from the rookie quarterbacks. And yes, Trey Lance and Justin Fields continue to rise up draft boards. So Gaskin's fallen a little bit, RB22 to RB25, outside the top 60 now. Malcolm Brown, who Miami brought in, he ran with the 1s, he ran with the 2s, he played 16 snaps with the first team offense, he carried the ball 9 times, he only had 8 yards because he's not very good, and also the offensive line just didn't do him any favors. So we'll give him a little bit of a pass, -7 yards before contact. But Brown was the starter last year with the Rams, and he got his job taken from Darrell Henderson and eventually Cam Akers. And last year in Miami, they decided to roll with Jordan Howard and Matt Breida, and Gaskin eventually took over there as well. I do believe in the upside in Gaskin. I think he definitely has the higher ceiling between him and Brown. Brown, a late round flyer, sure. If he's going to get 1st and 2nd down and red zone opportunities, that is useful. But Gaskin is that pass catching back. even if it's just a third down role, I think, you're better suited to draft him as RB 25, 26. I think that's an okay price. He's not a rock solid RB2, but he does have upside to be an RB2, but also he has, really good flex appeal, I would say. So Gaskin going as RB 26 here now over the past 2 weeks. I think it's a decent price. I think he's a good buy low candidate in dynasty leagues, and he won't cost you a whole lot. Where the decline is really going to come is probably through the air, even if he is just playing in a third down role. 41 catches on 47 targets. They didn't have Jalen Waddle. They didn't have Will Fuller. Now this offense is better suited for Tua. It's built around him. It wasn't last year, so we could see a bit of a decline, but I don't want to overreact here when it comes to Gaskin. His price as RB22 a couple weeks ago wasn't really fair to begin with. Now, you're seeing Brown. I think falling back to RB 25 and 26, I would jump on that. Again, if he's your third RB, I think you're laughing. If he's your second, you're probably in a pile of hurt. But if you have any questions, don't be afraid to hit me up at Chris Meaney. Check out the free article over at ftnfantasy.com. Good luck in your drafts. We'll talk to you soon. Cheers.